Live 5 News starts now with breaking news.
I realized that they were kidnapping me and that I couldn't get out of this situation, that they weren't going to let me go.
Breaking news right now, 2 kidnapping suspects in custody after several incidents involving USC students in Columbia in the last 30 minutes. Charleston native Jordan Dinsmore, whom you saw there, described what she says happened late Tuesday night when she got home to her apartment in Columbia after getting off work. She says 3 men forced her to the ground and then into a car at gunpoint to go to the ATM to withdraw money. Listen.
I was running through options in my mind, can I crash the car? Can I try and veer off the side of the road? Can I run? What can I do? And basically, I just came to the realization, I have to put as much distance in between them and myself as possible.
That is a smart young lady. Jordan tells us the suspects could not drive a stick shift, and she was lucky she was the driver. She said there was talk they would sexually assault her, so she threw the car into neutral, and she rolled out of the car, and then she flagged down help. Richland County authorities believe her abduction may be related to several attacks. We're awaiting a news conference any moment now that's scheduled to start in Columbia. We will take you to that presser as soon as it starts. Right now, we continue to keep an eye on the slight chance of rain this afternoon. Slight chance, but we want to give you the first alert to the chance of severe weather tomorrow night and into the weekend. Chief Meteorologist Bill Walsh in the First Alert Weather Center. Bill, not a complete washout, though, for the weekend.
No, not for the weekend. We might see some pop-up storms. Again, very typical this time of the year, maybe a little enhanced on Saturday. That chance of a severe pop-up, again, kind of low, but we're not going to rule it out. As we take a look at First Alert Super Doppler Max right now, we do have a couple of showers. A few folks out toward between Bono and St. Stephen. We're looking at a couple of showers. Back over toward Jamestown and the Water Tower, all the way up toward Andrews, we are looking at a couple of rain showers. So parts of Berkeley County, even up into Georgetown, and trying to sneak on up into parts of Williamsburg County, you are looking at a couple of showers. Right now, though, hot and toasty out there, looking at 90 degrees in the creek. We've got pretty much some upper 80s from the beach at Folly Beach at 84 degrees to about 87 to 88 out in Somerville, 88 Walterboro, 89 up at St. George, and again, Georgetown at 87 degrees. As we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast, as you plan out your evening, low 80s by 6 o'clock. We pull most of the showers out of the forecast this evening. Should be kind of quiet towards 7 and 8 o'clock, about 8 o'clock, low 80s, so it should stay on the warm and steamy side. Now, what about the rest of your weekend? We are tweaking the forecast as we speak. We'll have more on that in your weekend weather here in a few minutes. What about that drive home? We always check that right here with our expert for First Alert Traffic and Jordan Wilkerson.
Oh, fine-tuning the forecast for traffic, too. And, for right now, things are looking good. As more people get off work, though, I imagine we'll see more traffic. That's your little forecast. All right, let's get to what's happening right now. You can see we are dealing with some backup in the typical spots. Notice I-526 westbound speeds down to 10 miles per hour. No incident, just traffic. Then we also see speeds less than 10 going around the merge here. But then once you get onto 526 or 26, it's looking pretty good for the most part, of course, but parts of I-26 westbound down to 30 miles per hour. And actually, parts of 17 Savannah Highway going southbound is a little slow as well. So here's a look at those drive times. This number has crept up a little bit. 32 minutes Mount Pleasant to West Ashley. As we take a look at I-26 drive times, 26 minutes the slowest going westbound. That's downtown to Somerville. And as we take a look at Highway 17, where I mentioned southbound, we're seeing some slow spots as well. It will take you about 33 minutes to get from Mount Pleasant to West Ashley. Less than 10, though, than that. Less than 10 from 33, 23, going in that opposite direction. Back to you.
All right, Jordan, good to have you with us. Celebrating her second anniversary here at Live 5. Right now, Charleston County School Board members meeting to discuss that controversial decision to give themselves a pay raise of $14,000 a year. Sydney Ryan at that school board meeting going on right now. Sydney, what's the latest?
Bill, there are no updates yet. The trustees came out very briefly for about 30 seconds to vote to go into executive session. They've been in executive session for close to an hour now. Now, what they're going to be discussing is this pay compensation that they voted on last Monday. They're going to talk to legal counsel about the legality of it and if it was okay what they did. Now, when they come back from executive session, which should be any minute now, hopefully, they will be re-voting on this pay compensation to either rescind it or keep it in play. For now, no updates. We'll keep you updated with the latest information on live5news.com. Reporting live from downtown Charleston, I'm Sydney Ryan, Live 5 News.
We are also continuing to follow breaking news about one of those school board members, Kevin Hollingshed, arrested on 2 warrants for violating the South Carolina check law. Authorities tell us he's accused of writing bad checks. Officials say Hollingshed turned himself into authorities after finding out about the arrest warrants. He's at that meeting, school board meeting right now, which is going on. Now, let's take you to Columbia, where that news conference starting after a kidnapping at an off-campus apartment. One of the victims is from the Low Country. Let's listen in now to Sheriff Leon Lott.
We want to go ahead and let people know that the bad guys responsible for these crimes, the series that we've had, have been arrested. It actually started back on the 3rd of July, this month, where we had a delivery robbery. Someone had ordered some food, and the delivery service was delivering the food, and we had the driver that was robbed. And that was on the 3rd. And then on the 15th, we had the exact same thing. Another food delivery driver was robbed. And then on the 17th, we had the same thing. Now, these first 3, the delivery people were just robbed of what they had, the money that was on them. And that was it. And the descriptions were just similar. And at that point, we started realizing that we had a trend going on, that we had a group that was out here committing these robberies. On the 19th, we had another delivery robbery. This time, the driver was forced to go to an ATM machine and withdraw some money. That was on the 19th. We didn't have anything from the 19th until the morning of the 25th. We had a female at an apartment complex that was approached. She was kidnapped, forced to drive her car off. After the suspects talked to her for a while, they brought her back to the apartment complex and they let her go. Shortly thereafter, they approached 2 men that were in the parking lot who were moving. They kidnapped both of them, forced them to drive to an ATM machine and withdraw some money. And then they were released. Then we go to the next morning, which is the 26th. And at that time, we had Jordan, who was kidnapped from her apartment as she came home from work. She parked the car. Suspects kidnapped her, forced her to go to an ATM machine, take some money out, and fortunately she was able to escape for them. We've made 2 arrests. We've arrested a 17-year-old. Raqueen Green has been arrested and charged with these crimes. We also arrested a 15-year-old. We're not releasing the 15-year-old's name at this time. We're working with the solicitor's office to get that juvenile charged and as an adult. This investigation is continuing. We've been able to obtain quite a bit of evidence. We got forensic evidence from victims' cars. We've been able to recover some of the stolen property that was stolen during the robberies. Our eyewitnesses, our victims, have been able to help us and identify the 2 suspects that we have under arrest. Neither one of them are cooperating at this time, but we have got great cooperation from our victims, who were all very observant. And in a minute, you're going to hear from one of them. Jordan's going to get up here and talk in just a minute, and she'll be able to tell her story. But all of our victims helped us out tremendously. They all kept their composure. They were very observant. The things that they were able to remember, things that they saw, they were able to give that information to us, which helped us to quickly identify who these suspects were and then be able to find them and arrest them. This was a crime spree. They would not have stopped. The only thing that was going to stop them was them being arrested, and we were able to do that. Again, we had the 25th, we had the 2 men that were robbed. The 26th, we had Jordan, and then the next day, we had them under arrest. So our investigators did a great job. Our forensic people did a great job. This was, again, teamwork from the victims, from the community that helped us out, and also from the investigators that we had here. We see this quite often where an individual or a group will just get on a roll and they'll just start, and they'll continue, and they'll continue until they get caught. This group was escalating. Again, it started off just robbing the delivery person. Then it escalated to forcing them and kidnapping them to go to an ATM machine. It escalated to them taking a pistol and putting it into the chest of one of the victims and saying, you know what Russian roulette is, and pulling the trigger. And then it escalated to a possible, almost a sexual assault. So they were escalating. And fortunately, we were able to stop them before it got any further. Our victims, are suffering. Some have some injuries, not serious injuries as far as physically, but again, what they've endured is something that they'll always remember. But when you hear from Jordan in a minute, Jordan's going to represent all these victims. These victims are not going to allow these people to destroy their lives. They're not going to allow them to live in fear. These victims stood up and helped us out, and these victims are still standing tall. Questions for me before we let Jordan come up?
This group, are they related to any gangs or anything of that nature?
The 17-year-olds got a criminal record, and so they've been involved in it before. This is not anything that we know of that's gang affiliated, except for their gang. This gang of thugs that were going out here and committing these crimes. So it's not gang related.
Sheriff, have you identified any kind of indications or pattern that on how these victims were being targeted by these suspects?
We have, and that's something that came from their mouth. They were focusing on white people. They made the statement that they did not like white people and they were only going to rob white people. And the African-American victim they had, they apologized to her and did not rob her. So that's how they were selecting their victims.
Do you know where they got the gun?
We're still working on that. This is a very active investigation. Again, it's moving as we're standing here talking right now, so we're not completed yet. There's a lot of things that we're going to fill in, a lot of things that we're going to get answers to. Yes, sir.
Can you go back to the...
Right, go ahead.
So Jordan mentioned that there was a third man involved in her incident who apparently ran off. Do you have a suspect in mind?
We're still investigating. We're not finished yet. What we wanted to do right now is just let the community know that we've solved this case, that we've got 2 people in jail. And so we don't want our community living in fear. So but this investigation is still continuing.
Sheriff, can you go back to the issue of the racial element of this? Is there anything that, undoubtedly people will read something into that? Is there anything you want to say about that aspect of it?
No, it's unfortunately that we've got people in our community, black, white, all colors, that do have prejudices, and sometimes they commit crimes based on those prejudices. And I'm not looking at this as someone that went out and just they were just thieves. They were just robbers and kidnappers and thugs. That's basically what they were, and they used race as part of what they were doing.
And the first incident happened earlier. I think you said on the 19th.
No, on the 3rd.
On the
3rd. The 3rd was the first one. Then the 15th, the 17th, 19th, 25th. And 26.
So why wait and not put out a release, maybe letting folks know in that area, or were they just not reported yet, or why wait until now to let people know?
Because we hadn't connected all of them yet. This was still a work in progress, and so we had not put a connection. There was not one area because they had went into a different area too. So it was not something we can say they were just here. And I know that it's kind of been blown up that they were focusing on the student housing. That wasn't it. They started doing something else, and then they moved to that. And so this was a combination. So it was too premature to really put anything out. Plus, we were dead on them, and we didn't want to hurt the investigation whatsoever by putting stuff out.
We're just a couple, 3 weeks away from students coming back to Columbia. Are you going to be working with those apartment complexes to enhance the security down there in any way?
Well, we already do that. That's something that's part of what we do. We meet with USC. We meet with all our apartment complexes. We have apartment complex coalition, has a crime watch group where we meet with the managers and we go to these different apartment complexes and we talk to the people who live there about safety and about crime prevention and just things that you can do. We make suggestions to apartment complexes, you know, as simple as cutting the bushes down and having extra light. So this is something that we always do. And we always reinforce it, you know, at this time of the year since we do have more students coming in. But we do that for all of our apartment complexes.
And did you say that they isolated stadium suites, or was it a handful of different complexes?
No, we have two complexes, Stadium Suites and the Village. That was the two that we had 2 incidents in. This time I'm going to ask Jordan to come up. And Jordan, if you want to come up. And we've nicknamed Jordan James Bond for her thought process that she did to be able to escape. And again, we talked about how people react a lot of times when they're victims. And, you know, Jordan was a victim, but she didn't allow herself to be victimized because she did outsmart these guys. She had a plan from the very beginning, from the moment that she was approached and kidnapped. She had a plan and she carried it out, and it worked. So, you know, we applaud her. We call her a hero. We call her James Bond for some of the things that she did, and she'll probably explain some of those. And we're not identifying her last name. We're only using Jordan. You want to do questions, or you want to hear the story?
We'll hear the story and then ask.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first I want to thank the sheriff for that amazing introduction. It's very kind words, very kind words. And I want to thank y'all here for being here as well. Well, I got off work pretty late. Most restaurants here do close around 12 o'clock, some as late as 2 a.m. every weekday, and got to my apartment complex at around 12:30 a.m. and was approached by 3 males after parking and getting out of my vehicle. I instantly started screaming, and they pushed me to the ground and shoved a gun towards me and told me that if I didn't shut up that they would shoot me. So I stopped screaming, and they got me over to the passenger side of the vehicle, and they were instructing me to get in or they would shoot me, and they had already robbed me and stolen all my possessions. So I was asking them, why can't I just leave? Why can't you just leave me here? And they said that I had to come with to get money out of the ATM. They couldn't figure out the key fob because my doors don't automatically unlock, and so they were unable to get the passenger side unlocked. They instructed me to crawl over the driver's side and into the passenger side. They attempted to crank the vehicle, but soon realized that it wouldn't crank because I have a manual transmission, and he didn't realize that you have to put in the clutch and that it's different than an automatic. And so I told him it's a manual, and he instructed me to drive. And so they climbed over me to get into the passenger seat, and by this point the third assailant had left the scene out of most likely fear of how long this was taking, because the others had gone pretty smoothly. They knew what they were doing at this point, and having the manual transmission, it caused them to falter. And at this point, the other man got into the back. I drove out of the complex and turned right onto Shop Road. I made a right onto Beltline Street, and they instructed me to go into the gas station that has the Burger King and the Wells Fargo drive-up ATM. They instructed me to get close enough to the ATM so that I didn't have to open the door, but I still had to unbuckle my seatbelt to reach the buttons. And at this point, you know, I'm trying to calm down. I'm running through situations in my mind. Can I crash the car? Can I get someone's attention? Can I flash the lights without them noticing? And all those were no's, because, you know, they would still be beside me and they still had control over me. So at this point, as I'm drawing out the money, I came to the conclusion that I'm going to have to jump. And so I made sure to not buckle my seatbelt back up, and I just hoped that they wouldn't notice the safety beeping. As I turned right out of the gas station onto Bluff Road, they instructed me that I was going to drop them off somewhere, and then they said that I was going to be sexually assaulted by them as well. And so at that point, I decided, it's time. I need to get myself out of this situation. And I missed the turn onto Blair Street, and they instructed me to try and just pull the car over. And I saw a few vehicles coming my way. I checked behind me to make sure there was no one on my tail that could run me over. And as the passenger was looking over to the side where I was going to pull, I just saw my opportunity. I threw it into neutral and just opened the door and fell out. And as I got up and started running back towards the village, back towards the gas stations that were 24 hours, because I knew there were people there, even if I couldn't flag the cars down. I checked back every few yards to make sure they weren't following me, but all I could see was my brake lights. And some amazing woman stopped her vehicle, even though, she was alone. She had no idea what was going on. And she called 911, and once the police were called, they actually beat us to the gas station because I was informed they were blanketing the area just in case something like this did happen. My vehicle was actually uncovered by a female officer before she was informed that it was my vehicle or anything like that. And yeah, pretty much from there, the police have just been so helpful, and I'm glad that they caught these men. Yeah. So any questions?
At what point did it go through your head? What were your thoughts, when you said, I'm not going to be a victim and I am going to make it out of this?
Well, I thought back to my mom. She was almost a victim of sexual assault when she was in college, and she fought back and fought the man off. And I thought, I'm going to be strong like my mom, and I'm going to get myself out of this. Okay.
Were you hurt?
Bruises and scratches, but no sprains, no broken bones. That's the best I could have asked for, jumping out of a moving vehicle at 35 miles per hour. I'm so lucky that I wasn't hurt worse, or, mentally and physically.
When you pulled your car in, you mentioned they were kind of on top of you as you got out of the car. Do you attribute anything to their ability to be able to get that done successfully? Do you think anything could maybe stop them if you had known that they were around you?
It's just on that side of the parking, there's absolutely no lighting, and it backs right up to Shop Road. There's only a few trees. So, as soon as I pulled in the parking spot and got out, they came out from behind the vehicle beside me. I looked up and just saw dark figures and I just panicked.
And moving forward, I know being a student, heads are always on a swivel at apartment complexes and things like that. Moving forward, what will be your approach? Just continuously looking over your shoulder and making sure that doesn't happen?
Well, I definitely think I'm not sure if all of you were informed, but I am a criminal justice major. And so I believe that me just going through those situations in my head, if this happened, what would I do? If this happened, what would I do? And, I just always think in my head, if I was in this position, would I be able to keep a cool head? Would I be able to get out of it? And, I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I could, and that I know that I hope that I'll be successful in my career, and that this shows me, that you can calm down, you can make smart decisions, and you just really have to get inside your own head. But I also hope that the apartment complexes, I know that they have security alert systems for, well, not security alert systems, but they have text message systems, and water mains are broken and things like that. And I just hope that they start to utilize those for security things as well. I know I can't ask for everything, and I know that it's very hard to get those things put together, but I hope that in the future they start moving towards that.
How amazed were you at that fast response when you looked up and they were already at the gas station?
Oh, I've done ride-alongs before, so I know that, sometimes there are only a certain number of police officers spread throughout a county, and I know that response times are definitely a very big concern for police because they want to be able to respond quickly, and the faster that the response is, the faster that the situation can be dealt with and handled. So I was just very amazed that, I mean, I was turning and I saw the car speed right into the gas station. So, you know, it was really nice to just have that security of the police officer there, then to know that help was there.
How far away from where you jumped out was the car recovered approximately?
Approximately 35 yards. I'm not sure exactly, but no, they were unable to. And I think that that's what helped me, was being able to be in control of the speed of the vehicle, and to know that he was locked in on the passenger side, and I also drive a coupe, so he was also trapped in the back. They couldn't get out until it was completely stopped. So, and the fact that they had to escape on foot, I'm sure that they were frightened a lot more than I was. Yeah.
Sheriff, you got any openings?
We've already discussed that, and I've already done some recruiting, so she has a couple more years to go, and once she graduates, then we're gonna definitely try to get her here at Richland County Sheriff's Department. All right, thank y'all.
What a story you have been listening to. A young low-country lady, we believe she's 20, we're just going to use her first name, Jordan, was able to escape her own car, jump out of the car as it was going 35 miles an hour out of the driver's side, escape from at first 3 men and then down to 2. And she's okay today because she could think well under pressure. She said they talked about sexually assaulting her. She knew she had to do something, so she jumps out of the car. The suspects arrested so far, 2 of the 3 suspects have been arrested. Their ages are you ready for this? 17 and 15. The search is on for the 3rd suspect. The sheriff, Leon Lott, whom you just saw, said, unfortunately, the suspects expressed a dislike for white people and even apologized to one victim who was African American. You've been listening to Jordan talk. The sheriff called her their James Bond for her daring escape and their hero. We'll have more on this story as it develops, but Jordan really is a low-country hero who saved her own life. Stay with us.